You know why I think we love the Olympics so much is because you hear all these stories of all these athletes that have come from crazy circumstances to achieve their dreams. That's kind of my idea of this podcast and this season of the Single Mom Collective. I want to share with you stories of single moms that are freaking doing the thing. Like they are making it because it's an example of what is possible for you. So I cannot wait for you to meet my new friend, Reenee Khanna. We met on Instagram as everything good goes. And I'm like, hey, like, I like what you're doing. Like, let's figure out a way we can team up. She's messaging me. Let me just give you the list of all that Reenee does. Okay. Reenee started out, she is right now, she's a business coach. She helps women make lots of money doing the business that they love. And I can't wait for you to hear her secrets. You're going to hear that on this podcast. You're also going to hear her story of going from a stay-at-home mom, all of a sudden going through a divorce with 3 children, learn day trading to figure out a way to make money, even helped her ex figure out a way to do that, then opened up her dance studio, like a Bollywood style dance studio, not just one, 4, and her goal is 12 by January, and now is an online business coach with a community called Flow and Thrive, which I'm personally a member of. And I'm excited. Plus then, oh wait, I'm not done. Went back to become an herbalist to understand the mind body connection. Like you're doing all the things, and I please help us figure out how we can do all the things too. Reenee, thank you so much for, I'm just going to say you're a part of the Single Mom Collective now. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yes, I love it. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. Can we just start from the beginning? Like, what
Mhm.
happened? Stay at home mom, and then all of a sudden start day trading. What was the thing that was like, you know what? Like, I deserve more and I'm going to go get more. What was the change for you?
I think for me, it came after I had my third baby. And I remember looking in the mirror and I'm like, I don't even know who this person is anymore. I don't know who I am. You know, before I started having kids, I was an exec at Disney. I was living in London, England. I'm from Toronto
Uh,
originally. So that was a big adventure for me. I finished grad school. I went to London. I worked there. And now I'm sitting here like 10 years later going like, who is this person? I don't know who I am anymore. I don't recognize myself. And I think there was like a couple of turning points for me. One was like when my daughter at the time, I can't remember how old she was. She must have been like 6 or 7. She's like, I never
mm.
want to get married because it looks boring. I don't want to
Oh,
end up like you. I remember I was like just so unhappy where I was at. I was like marking X's in the calendar and I was like, this is not good. Something has to change, but I don't know what it was. And so I just went on this journey of just, I guess, falling in love with myself again, remembering who I am. And when I woke up and realized who I realized I had to leave. And I couldn't
oh.
because I was financially dependent. I was a stay-at-home mom. By then, it had been 12 years of being a stay-at-home mom. And I guess I realized that if I wanted to leave, I had to have financial independence. That was the biggest thing. That's why I started day trading.
So you created your own financial independence. How did you do that? Let me go back, actually.
Okay.
What was it inside of you that gave you the courage and also the confidence to know that you could?
Oh, that's such a good question because the only thing that came to my mind when you asked the
Yeah.
question was it wasn't inside of me, it was outside of me, and it was my kids.
Oh, okay.
I was like, if not for me, I have to do this for them. I have to show them that better is possible. I have to show them that this is not normal. And a lot of things I think that I had quietly normalized over the years were not. And so
Yeah.
that was they were my biggest inspiration in the beginning. But I think sometimes it is that way, right? And
Yeah.
it comes from there, and then you start taking the steps and you realize how strong you are within.
Yeah, I think I call that finding your why.
Mm,
I don't know if you've ever read the book Man's Search for Meaning. It's a great book by Viktor Frankl.
okay.
I recommend it to all of my clients. And it's a tough book, though. It's about the Holocaust.
Okay.
And it's about, though, finding your meaning in times of suffering. And they say there's a line in it from a famous philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, that says, "He who
Mm.
has a why to live can bear any how." I'm like, you had a why to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, I'm going to create something better, a better example for my children.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. That hit deep.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so you start day trading. Like, tell
Yeah.
me that adventure. How did you figure that out?
I thought to myself, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to continue doing my mommy duties. And I can't,
Right.
so going out and going back to corporate, I know what it's like. It's hectic. There's no way I can work those hours.
Uh,
I cannot commit, and I wouldn't be happy with myself.
right.
And so there's one thing that I grew up with, a mentality around money, which was very strong. That money is abundant. It's floating
Uh,
around everywhere all the time. It's in circulation. It's not like a pie that we're going to ever run out of money. It's circulating. You give it to me, I give it to someone else. Like it's all over. So it can't be that hard to come by. That's what I kept thinking. I'm like, it can't be that hard to come by. There's got to be a way. And a lot of my cousins, my boy cousins, were trading stocks. And I'm like, well, if they can do
okay.
it, I can do it. So let me see. And I spent 6 months. I made a spreadsheet and I'm like, okay, what would I buy and sell every single day? And I want to point out, because I know it's all mostly women who are listening to this,
Right.
that a part of me was intimidated because I felt like,
Yeah.
the stock market is a very masculine place. And I've been a stay-at-home mom in my feminine energy, looking after my kids, you
Hmm.
know what it's like. And I was like, okay, but I'm very good at psychology because I got kids. I know how to manage my emotions, right? And I'm very intuitive. And
Yeah.
these three things are, I learned very after a little bit of trading that those are instrumental in being successful. And so if anyone's ever thinking about this, I want you to remember that because I thought it was about the
Mm.
graphs and the charts and the analysis and all these people sitting in
Hmm.
boardrooms talking about their, what they think is going to happen because they looked at this research and that. And I'm like, but the markets are not that rational. And so with that in mind, I started to think about what would I buy every day given the news that was coming out, when would I buy it? When would I sell it? And I recorded it
Hmm.
in a spreadsheet every single day diligently. Not a single trade happened. It was just me saying, well, this is what I would do until I had enough confidence to take a little home equity line of credit of $10,000 and trade. And like within, I think it was less than a year with that 10,000 that I was able to get like, I think it was about nearly $4,000 that I made in that first year
Hey.
on the 10. So that's like nearly
Yeah.
40%. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, guys, we're doing this.
I
I
know what
got
I'm
this.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I kind of got into it. And it's great. I mean, the bell rings at 9:30. So I would drop off my kids. I had half an hour to prep, read the news, know what I was doing, and then trade and then pick them up and maybe another half an hour of trading after they came home. It was perfect.
That's amazing. Like just the confidence that you had. And I have to say, like, I'm jealous and I'm envious, I think, because I didn't grow up with that same money mindset.
Mhm.
Like, I grew up, I'm a third generation single mom
Wow. Yeah.
in my family. My grandmother became a widow in 1956. Her husband died as a heart attack on the family farm. My mother was 6 years old. And then, like, my mother went through a divorce, and then it was like the last thing I wanted, and then I went through it. So I think there is this history of women of dependence and scarcity that I've fought to overcome. How would you say, like, help me get your mindset about that? Because I think a lot of women are like that, and like all we know is scarcity. And then even like going through as growing up as a divorced child, it was always like my parents fought about money. Who's going to pay for me to go to camp? Who's going to pay for me to go to college? And all I know is conflict about it. How do you heal that?
I think a big part of it, because I had my own money issues, right? So yes, there's a lot of abundance.
Right.
However, the kind of community I was raised in and the background in my upbringing was, but that abundance flows through a man. So
Right.
he makes the money, he gives it to you, which gives all the control in their hands, right? The one who makes the
Right.
money has all the control somehow. This is a
Hmm.
society that I think we live in, this mindset. And so for me, the biggest barrier, and I actually think it's the same barrier for a lot of women, even if it's a scarcity mindset, there's this big barrier that the money comes from men. So if I don't have a man, I'm going to be in a scarcity, in a place of scarcity, right? Because how
Yeah.
do women, like women, we don't even have pay equity. I mean, we might now, but I know when I was working at
I don't
Disney, we
think so.
certainly didn't have pay equity.
We're far. I
We
didn't
weren't even
either.
allowed
Yeah.
to go on the golf trips, and that was like in the 2000s, right? So, you know, we have this built-in mindset as women that money is less available to us, right?
Hmm.
But the first profession on the planet was a woman. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. This was
What
all
do you
our
mean?
idea. The first,
Oh.
we were the first ones making money. We came up with this whole concept. I'm like, there's no way that I need to believe that as a woman, there's something there. I think a lot of life, and I'm a big believer in manifestation. So if we hold on to beliefs, it's going to play out, right?
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I got to abandon this belief that money comes through men, that men somehow
Hmm.
have more entitlement to money because I don't know, they're more logical, they work harder.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure why,
Yeah.
right? But where does that come from? I'm like, I need to abandon this belief. I need to
Hmm.
understand that me as I am, as a woman, is inherently worthy of having money. Why not? Like, where is it even coming from? It's not coming from anything that feels aligned for me. So that was the first part. The second part is like, if you think about this, if they were to cut down all the trees, we would run out of oxygen and it would take forever to grow more trees and grow more
True.
anything. And I'm watching, and like, I remember it was like 2008, and I'm like, so when they run out of money, they just print more money. It happened like overnight when they had to bail out the banks. Remember when they were
Yep.
bailing out the banks? They just gave them
And the
money. I'm like,
car companies and the automotive industry. Yeah. Yep. Hmm.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. So this is a resource that's infinite, actually. It's a man-made resource
Oh,
that's completely infinite. It's not actually as precious and scarce as the things that we already take for granted, like the
interesting.
trees and like. So if you start to flip your minds and actually understand that, and there's no pie. There's no money pie. Absolutely no money pie. It just, it's like we live off
Oh,
a, again, so okay. So one thing I did study money in the sense that when I started to get into trading stocks and I looked into like, oh, it was a gold backed currency. And I know I'm going to get very technical here with people, but the bottom
good.
line of everything I learned about, having a debt backed currency, because that's what, the US
Hmm.
dollar is backed by now, means that the more I spend, the more other people have to spend. So there's not a pie that's ever running out. We're all just spending money. The only way the money can run out is if we stop spending it.
Stunning. Oh, that makes it feel like we're not such in scarcity mode. Didn't we help
There's,
each other out?
there's no scarcity of money. There
Oh,
can't be.
you're right. So knowing this, you
Mhm.
start day trading, and then what made you then be like, open up some dance studios as a single mom with three kids?
Okay, so this is my money mindset today. Back
Yeah.
then, I was playing with these concepts, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sitting there playing with these concepts and starting to trade stocks, but a
Mhm.
part of me still has a lot of doubt. There's that human part of you that's
Oh,
like, okay, but you can't just count on this to make money. Even though you believe
right.
all of these things, you need a lot more evidence until you really ground into it. So I was like, okay, I got
Yeah.
to do other things. So I'm going to go back to school and study herbalism because my son, there's a big long story with him, but basically he was born with an infection, which went away, but then he was on antibiotics, which results in gut
Oh,
issues, as we know. And
yep.
so then he was colic, and we went through this whole process. And I learned a lot about like one, healing the gut, but two, also understanding the emotional trauma that happens to a baby that's in IC, the NICU, right? The
Yeah.
neonatal intensive care. So he was taken to the NICU, and that created emotional trauma. He didn't see me for like 16 hours. He didn't get fed by me. No one could touch him. He was in an
Right.
incubator. And so I started to learn a lot about like natural healing, healing the emotional root cause. And so I was like, I love this stuff. I'm going to go back to school and become a herbalist and, start treating everybody else's chronic conditions. And at the same time, finding yourself is a process, and dance has always been my passion. So one of the things I did was get back into dance, and I actually had knee injuries. So doctors had told me I couldn't ever dance again. So I was healing my knees and learning how to dance while going to school so that I could help other people heal. Because I'm like, if I can heal my son, I can heal myself. And so that was a whole journey. But underlying it actually was also, I can't rely on stocks forever to make money. So I should probably learn some more skills. The dance
Well,
part was
good.
more a passion thing. It was never meant to be a business ever. I never thought I was going to run a dance school.
Okay. But you just did the thing. You
I
just
did
kept
the thing.
going.
I kept going. I kept listening to my heart. I kept following my intuition. And I invested a lot of money training for dance because I thought
Hmm.
that was a part of my healing process. I was like, if I want to find myself again after divorce, I have to become the confident person I was before I got married. And dance was going to do that for me. So I thought it was the best investment I could make. And okay, for anyone who is in a place right now of wanting and trying to trust your intuition, let me tell you what happened. The universe is so incredible. So I'm learning dance and I'm investing all this time and money, and I do all of it. And one day I'm walking through the hallways at my kid's school, and the lady who owns the after school care program sees me. And she said, "Oh, I heard a rumor that you've been learning dance and that's your passion. And, I used to work in Bollywood, actually. That's why it's my passion." And so she said, "We have some extra budget and we need someone to run an after school program. Would you be open to doing it?" And I said, "Well, how much exactly is this extra budget and what does it entail?" And it was, guys, I'm not even saying like the exact
Oh,
amount that I had invested in relearning dance and hiring a private teacher was the amount she was offering me. And I'm like, every penny I just invested in me came back.
come back to me.
And came back, and then the kids did a performance and the parents loved it, and they said, "Can you open a whole school and we'll bring our kids to learn?" And that's how Dance Bollywood was born. It was never, it was, yeah. It's following my heart.
Well, it's like I wrote down two words when you were talking about this
Mhm.
story is potential and passion. And I felt like
Mhm.
you have a unique perspective where you see potential in the unknown almost, instead of scared, instead of being afraid of it. And then
Yeah.
you also followed your passion because you saw potential in it. What is it about you that sees that? I want to put that mindset on every single mom in the Single Mom Collective. Like, help me harness that and let's give it to other single moms. Can
Okay.
you like share that?
I'm going to share it because I have a love for plants and trees, right? Clearly, I value them
Okay, me
above money
too. Me
already.
too.
That's why I'm a herbalist.
I'm
But,
convinced I'm going to be a farmer one day. But okay, tell me
right?
more.
Yeah, I know.
Like I'm
But
going to be
so,
great
okay.
at it. Yeah.
So the way, are you? Tell me.
No, but I come from a long line of farmers. I have a peach tree that does really
Okay.
well. So
Okay. That's good.
start.
That's huge. Oh my God. Now you're getting me into this trajectory. I have so many questions. Okay. I'm
Okay,
going to share
okay.
this
Let's
perspective
go
first
back to
with your
that.
listeners. So, okay. I want you guys to think of a seed of an oak tree, and this is the way I see life. Okay. That seed is just a seed. It does not look like an oak tree whatsoever. If you were to leave that seed lying on your desk for years, it would just remain a seed. But we know that if you put that seed in the ground and you nourish it, it's going to eventually grow roots. And you know how hard it is to grow roots? Because to grow roots, you're in the dark and you're moving towards gravity. You're going downwards, right? This is what your pain was all about. You were a seed that was put in and you were in the dark and you're going through all of this pain and all of this trauma. So if anyone's there right now, that you are growing a foundation right now. And eventually, there's a part of you that's like, what is this? Why is it so hard? and you pull your energy back in, and you start to pull your energy out of the roots. And what happens to that seed at that point is nothing. It's just sitting there in the dark. And then it's starting to think, I have to now push in another direction, right? So you've been pushing against something down to gravity. Now you're trying to push in another direction and nothing's happening. Nothing's happening until you kind of come out a little bit from the soil and you suddenly see light. And the minute you see light, it's all the resistance goes and you grow
Yeah.
towards the light, right? If that seed is never planted, nothing happens. If that seed is never watered, nothing happens. If it doesn't have nutrients in the soil, if it doesn't have sunlight, nothing happens. So it's up to you to give the seed of potential within you the nutrients, the sunlight, the water, so that you can become an oak tree. Otherwise, you're just going to be growing roots and it's going to suck. It's going to feel awful.
So maybe some of us in a previous relationship weren't watered, or we weren't
100%.
even watering ourselves,
Yeah.
which really, when we think about it, it's our own duty. It's nobody else's responsibility. But because of whatever happened, like, let's just move forward. And it's like we weren't being watered, we weren't getting the nutrients we need. So we found just like a new home. And now we know that it's important to water ourselves and grow to the potential. I freaking love that. And that's why I love butterflies. I think I have the same analogy with butterflies.
Right. The metamorphosis.
Yes, because what I love is, like, it's not easy for the caterpillar to grow wings. Like, it's painful,
Mhm.
but it still does it anyway, right? Like, it goes in, and I wish I knew more about the brain of a cat. Like, does it know it gets to like fly and be a butterfly? Like, I really wish I would like know, like, does it know? But then it goes in and it's painful and it must suck. It's in this cocoon. And then if anyone comes along, like at a butterfly museum, and you see them trying to get out of the cocoon, and if anyone opens it, it can't fly because it's the struggle to get out of the cocoon that gives its wings the muscles and the strength and the ability to fly. So it's like, if we're like between the seed that has to struggle to get to the surface, it just needs the right watering and nutrients, and the caterpillar that's just like has to struggle to get out of the cocoon so you can be this beautiful new plant, this beautiful new creation. So maybe that's how we can reform. Like, if you're stuck in your single mom life right now, you're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. Whoa, well, maybe we just need to take care of ourselves in a different way to then become this new creation.
100%, right? Like the one thing I used to think about is like, because I was studying plants and I was like,
Yeah.
if a plant isn't growing, we don't say to the plant, like, what's the problem with you? We adjust the water, we adjust the sunlight, we
You're
change
right.
it up, right? And we need to nourish ourselves in the same way. You need to see yourself in the same way, especially when you're at that point where you're a seed. You're done, like you've moved on from a relationship, a marriage, so you've pulled your energy
Right.
back in. But you always thought, like, once I pull it back in, wouldn't it be easier? But there's still
Yeah.
that time that you have to keep nourishing yourself to sprout through, right? And if you're not sprouting through, then what needs to change? How can you nourish yourself better?
Yeah, it's like I call that the first pancake.
Mm.
It's like when you make pancakes, right? The first
Mhm.
is just a test,
Yeah,
and it never really comes out right.
yeah,
But it still tastes good and everybody still eats it. But all you
yeah,
need to do, and you don't throw out the batter if the first one is, you just make
yeah,
adjustments
yeah.
and you make it better. So maybe it's time for you to make some adjustments and get rid of the scarcity mindset of a single mom and figure out, how can I really, lack of a better phrase, kick some ass at this? Okay. Like,
Yeah,
right? I don't know.
yeah.
There's probably a much more beautiful way of saying that, but sorry, that's just what came out. So then you go from stay-at-home mom, day trading, figuring out, I can do this. That gives you confidence. Opening up your dance studio, that's your passion. You see potential, you follow your passion, And then you study and you become an herbalist. And now where does the manifestation come into this process where now you're like, had that been going on the whole time? Did you manifest this?
I didn't, you know what? I didn't even know about manifestation. And I was intuitively doing it because ultimately we're always all manifesting, right? We just don't, we're not doing it
Good or bad?
consciously, right? Yeah,
Right.
we're subconsciously calling stuff in. And I just decided I'm going to get conscious about it. I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. I know there's better. So how do I get to it? You know, one thing I did do is I said to myself, I'm switching on my intuition. I'm turning down the logic because when the logic is high, what happens is very easy for someone to infiltrate your mind. And what I mean by this is that you can hear what there's like, right? They can logic you into believing anything, right? For me, that was another thing, right? I am a bit of a rebel. So when they kept telling me, like they, meaning, you know, family, people, well wishers, like, you're gonna, if you leave your husband, you're gonna be a broke single mom. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I'll show you,
Watch
right?
me. Yeah,
Watch
watch
me.
me. Yeah.
But they can throw every piece of logic at you and be
Yeah.
like, this is why you'll be broke. This is why you'll be broke. I'm like, I'm shutting that logic down right now and I'm listening to this. And I'm going to follow my intuition, right? So, like, intuition is guiding me. And now I've totally even forgotten your question. I'm so sorry. You
I
said,
think I did
oh, the
too.
manifestation, where did that come from? So, now, because now, right?
Like, yeah.
Keep going because we're all manifesting based on the logical stuff people are telling us, and we're creating our beliefs based on that logic. When you
Right.
create your beliefs based on your intuition, that's when you start to see things differently. That's when I started to, like, I can't say learn from the plants, right? But I was studying herbalism, and so you're
Yeah.
observing plants, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. Like, you know, the plant growing when it gets nourished, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm applying all of these things, but the biggest thing was, and this is going to be really interesting because I started to make the mind body connection. And I started to learn that, yeah, there's an emotional root cause of your chronic condition, your physical pain. Yeah, we know that. But when I started working with clients, I had a clinic. And when my clients would know the emotional root cause of their pain, and we started doing the emotional work and we started moving it, they would start manifesting things that they wanted, right? So, like, I had one client who was, oh, I'm going to share this, her story a little bit, but
Yeah.
she was a pre-diabetic. So, like, if she didn't change
Yeah.
things, she was going to go on insulin. And she was single and she hadn't been on dates in years and this and that.
Mm.
And I was like, she's not nourishing herself. She's going for all the wrong, like she wasn't even, she was in a situationship where she wasn't even seeing the guy, and like it was just an awful, and you can, you know, we all know, we've all been there where
Yeah.
you're replaying your trauma, just
Yeah.
same story, different person kind of thing. And so anyway, she's in this situationship where they haven't even spoken for months. She's not really gone on dates in years with anybody else, and she's pre-diabetic. And I said, you know what, she needs to nourish herself. And so we came down to figuring out what she loved the most in this world, and she just started doing that. And I was like, this is gonna, the emotional root cause of her diabetes is the same trauma that's causing her to be in this situationship. So when she starts to nourish herself, when she starts to release that pattern, that thought pattern, that behavior, that emotional trauma by nourishing herself, everything's going to change. Her blood sugar regulated. She was getting asked out at the gym all day long. Then she messages me. She's like, I just met this man. Like, she was taking a class and she met him in the class. And then the next day he took her on, like, the date. She's like, the date I've been dreaming of
Oh.
for years just by doing that work. Right. And so I was like, oh, wow, manifestation is real. Like, I've been doing it all this time. I'm helping my clients do it. And so I want people to understand that, like, yeah, you have a lot of influence on your reality. And it doesn't feel that way when you're in a emotionally negative place, or when you're in a place where
Right.
things aren't working. But if you can pull yourself out of the loop just for a bit and give your, like, just go back to nourishing yourself, you'll see the light, you'll find the way.
Nourishing yourself with your food, exercise, like doing, and you said passion, like you went back to dance. Is
Yeah.
that what you say? I like for nourishing myself. I think it's writing,
Yeah.
and maybe everybody has their thing. Is that what you mean about nourishing yourself? Like, how could a single mom listening right now going, crap, I'm in that negative mindset. What do I do to find the thing that's going to nourish myself?
The thing that makes you feel alive. For this client, it was photography, right?
Okay.
Photography and poetry. And so I told her, I said, you know what? I want you to just go to a local business and just start taking photos, almost like a stalker, and create a really nice
Yeah.
Instagram reel for them and show it to them. And
Oh,
because they felt, they were like, wow, like I love the way you see my business. And like, because now she's getting feedback and validation too, right? On her passion. And that
yeah.
just encourages it more, and then her confidence levels go up. So I mean, there's so many nuances at play, but it's the thing that makes you feel alive. It's a thing like before all of this happened to you, what were you doing that just made you happy and without a care in the world, time flew by?
Yeah. I love that saying that there is two kinds of people we have to make happy in our life. It's not our mom, it's not our dad, it's not even God or spiritual being, whatever you believe in. Because all three of those people pretty much love you no matter what. Really, the two people we have to make proud is our 8-year-old self and our 80-year-old self,
Oh my God, I love that.
right?
I've not heard that before. Yes.
It's like your 8-year-old self had passions and dreams and no one had hurt her,
Hmm.
right? And all she saw was potential. And
Yeah.
all she saw was passion. Like my 8-year-old self, like I was Wonder Woman. Like I had the underoos, so therefore I was her, right? Like I could do anything. And like she still exists deep inside of you. And if you can tap into that 8-year-old version of you, I have a picture. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it. But I have a picture of like me as a little girl on my desk to remind me, like, I don't know, like I'm punching something, which is very hilarious. But I like, I, like it reminds me, like that girl, she was fierce and no one had hurt her. So keep
Hmm.
acting like her. And then your 80-year-old self is the one that's going to be really pissed off if you don't go for your dreams,
Hmm.
right? And we don't want to let her down. And she's not like, and I think about relationships, is she's going to be really mad if you let the fact that somebody hurt you never get back into a relationship ever again. So she's alone.
Yeah. 100%.
So I think those are the two people that we have to constantly think in our mind. It's just something that motivates me on a regular basis. So if you were to really talk into a newly single mom or even someone thinking about it,
Hmm.
maybe, and going, do I want the single mom journey thing or do I want to stay in this hard relationship thing? Which hard am I gonna pick? Like, how would you tell them to like start? Give them potential and passion.
Ooh.
Give her potential and passion. Is
I,
I'll let you think about that. Do you need it?
yeah.
Like, this is
Well, I'm
just
going to
coming out. I
share
didn't write that down as a
because
good. Go ahead.
I'm so intuitive, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to share. Like when you were talking, this a story came
Okay.
into my head. It
Okay.
was a friend of mine. So we come from a very conservative community, right? Divorce doesn't happen, and if it does, it's
Mine too.
like right. Okay, so you get it,
Mine
right?
too.
And then you get the look of pity, people looking at you with pity, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you
Hate
got
that.
divorced." I'm like, okay, so
Actually, you should be
her.
sorry I was staying in an abusive relationship, please.
Right,
Yes. Come
right. But
on.
somehow
Yes. Go
that's
ahead.
place given
Yep.
higher priority. So, anyways,
I know.
so my friend, we're in the same community, and we've now both like her kids were with her ex-husband, and mine were with mine for a week, and so we just did this like last minute impromptu trip to Costa Rica. Okay,
I
like this
love
is
it.
the
I freaking
I'm
love it.
saying this because if anyone's thinking the single life mom is hard, there's so many perks to it. The fact that you can just get up and go to Costa Rica for a week. So we decide we're going to go, and we're in Costa Rica, and somebody else from like that we know sends a message, and it was like a divorce pity message, right? She's like, they all pity us. I'm like, I know, but she's like, do we tell them we escaped or do we let them to continue feeling sorry for us? I'm like, I know, like we're sitting here in Costa Rica and I'm like, I really don't feel like
Right.
anyone should feel sorry for me at all. And I think what I would say to somebody, right, who's in that place, because it's so easy, like it feels like it's so easy now that you're through it, you can say that.
Yeah.
But when you're in that hard place, and I do remember the pity notes, like I remember someone sent me a message on Christmas, like, our thoughts are with you because they knew my kids were with. I was like, I'm just sitting here on Christmas, like it's peaceful, it's quiet, and I have a glass of wine. I'm not like anyways, I'm good. Thank you. But I get it. And I get where they're coming from. And I get there's a lot of
Right.
things, right? And this is where I say it's so important to sometimes turn off that logical brain because
Right.
everything they're saying makes logical sense and they mean well. And there are a lot of, like, we can't avoid reality. There are a lot of realistic fears and risks that you're taking when you're making this decision to become a single mom, right? But there's a part of you that knows, right? It's that 8-year-old self. She's still there and she knows there's better. And so when you start to tune into her more, that's when you can see potential. If you're caught up in all the logic that people are throwing at you, all the pity that they're throwing at you, all the stuff, then you're only going to be able to see that. You have to turn off the noise in order to see the potential. And you have to also surround yourself with the people. I think for me, one big thing was having the people that had gone through it, like front and center. Like, you
Mhm.
guys get to have access now to my logical brain, not the people, not the naysayers. You guys get to help me logic stuff out because I need new logic. With my old logic, I'm going to be
Yeah.
stuck in my old life. And I think that's all it is. It's rewiring that logical brain of yours, um, is what it's going to take to step out of it. And what I tell my clients all the time is that what we want to do here is the minute you find that tiny seed, that mustard seed of hope, like leech onto it and use it to build more momentum in the direction that you want to go in. So even if everything in your life right now, it feels difficult, you're stuck, you're this, you're that, find the one thing, like I did. It was my kids. They make me happy. We can
The
have,
why. Hmm.
right? The why. We can have a beautiful relationship when someone's not like looming over and criticizing my every motherly move, right? And I
Yeah.
want more of that. And so I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to grow that. I'm going to nourish that and let that be what guides me. So if you're in a place where like there's only a sliver of hope, like leech onto that sliver. That's all I
There's
can
a
say.
sliver. Let's be thankful for that. I love how you say it's a
Yeah.
seed. Like, we've got the seed. You know what happens if you plant it.
Right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember I came up with like a band name for me and my kids when I first got divorced. I called them the Sunshines. I gave them like a nickname, and we were Mama and the Sunshines everywhere we went. And because the song that I sang to them when they were babies, "You Make Me Happy When Skies Are Gray." I'm like, all right, Sunshines, they still answer to, it was a lot quicker than saying, "Emily, Andy, Zoe, come on, it's time to go." I'm like, "Sunshines, we're out." Like, let's go. Like, it was a lot. But I love that. It was like, that was my sliver of hope. That I was like, no, we're still a family. There's nothing broken about us. There's nothing missing about us. Like, we're just rebranded. We're just rebranded into a new name. So, let me ask you about a couple more steps of manifestation. So, um, it's interesting because this is something I've learned as I've understood like a deep, like growing up, and I would call it a high demand religion, and still kind of trying to figure out faith and spirituality and all the things. So, and understanding stuff that my grandma used to say to me. My grandma Aurelius just, and now she's brilliant now. I wish I could still talk to her. But she would say things like, your mind is like jello. You have to put on the good stuff before it sets. I'm
Ooh.
like, she's talking about your thoughts.
Hmm.
So, like, put in the good stuff before it sets. And I think it was about some proverb, your thoughts provoke your life. And she's like, your mind's like jello. She would refuse to allow me to say anything negative. So I have a manifestation process, and it's like I've read books upon books on it. Like Into the Magic Shop is one of my favorites. I don't know if you've read that book, but highly recommend that book. Different, The Science of Getting Rich. Read that book. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna like relax my whole body and I'm gonna like do this thing and I'm gonna listen to this high vibration music and I'm gonna imagine myself in this, like I imagine my husband and I on land and I have a garden and he's got a wood shop and like all these things. So I'm curious for you what you teach. Like if you were gonna help a single mom, maybe she's in the scarcity mode, how would you teach her to manifest a better future by believing in her potential and following her passion?
Yeah, so one of the things I learned because I did the mind body connection, and I think the thing that's a game changer for my clients when it comes to manifestation is understand this one thing. Because people sit here and they tell you, like, we're saying it, like, oh, believe that money is
I'm gonna do
abundant and
this.
believe this.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm freaking
Okay. Yeah.
trying. I'm
Yeah.
trying all day long. I'm affirming and I'm
Yeah.
saying it, I'm meditating, but it's not happening. The money's not falling out of the tree. So, like, what is it? And the thing I've told my clients is that it's actually manifestation is really cool. And there's so many books you can read and there's so much stuff you can logic. However, your body is a big part of manifestation. And your body is actually chemically addicted to where you are right now. Because where you are right now produces a chemical reaction in your brain. Your emotions produce a chemical reaction in your body, and your body is actually addicted to that, just like it would be addicted to caffeine or alcohol or anything else. It gets addicted to chemicals. This is why it is hard to leave the marriage because you are chemically addicted, right? If you think about,
Toxic
you know,
relationships. Yeah.
toxic relationships, you're on a high, you're on a low, and then when you're on the low and you get back on the high, there's an adrenaline rush, there's a happiness. You're addicted to that roller coaster. I
Yeah.
remember saying to my therapist, I'm like, I just need to get off this roller coaster. And I realized my brain was done, but my body was still addicted. And that's why we take so long to make these choices and these decisions. And then what happens to my clients is like, then they're beating up on themselves. They're like, and it happened to me too. It's like, why am I taking so long? Why did that
I,
person do it? Why is it so hard for me just to believe? And it's like, it's not. Your body's going through a process. So
mm,
let your body get on board and override. You got to override the body whenever it wants to go back, because that's why you want to go back to the marriage. That because you know it was bad for you, but you want to go back to the toxic relationship because your
'cause that's
body's
all you
having
know.
your body's having withdrawal. It wants it again. And so this is where you have to be more powerful and say, no, we're moving forward. And bodies are also wired for the familiar, like you said, because it ensures survival, right? So it's about making sure your body's safe. So as you're doing the work, as you're going to therapy, you're doing the mindset work, you're doing the belief work, keep doing the body work, the nervous system regulation, the tapping, whatever works for you, right? Like I like dancing personally, obviously, right? Like, so like I will journal out whatever needs to be released and then dance it out of my body, right? So I think it's having compassion that you're not moving slowly, that your body is just in a chemical addiction and you need to give it time to adjust and
That's
catch up.
beautiful. I, I haven't made that connection with manifestation. So thank you. That must be why I like to go to the gym. Like feel so much better after lifting weights and going to the gym. Like my day is so much better because I've gotten it all out. Like I feel strong because lifting weights makes me feel strong.
Yeah, and you feel good and you're
Hmm.
moving the stuff, right? Like I think that's
Yeah.
another reason too, right? Like so when we talk about like nourishing yourself, when you do something you love that you're passionate about, like, we talked about photography or painting
Yeah.
or writing, your body has a different chemical reaction than it doesn't. And so now you want your body to get used to happy vibes or happier vibes or vibes
Yeah.
where, so
Yeah.
the more you do
That's your
things you
normal.
love, the more that becomes your normal and the more then you manifest the things you want because now your body's used to being happy. It's used to being safe. It's used to having what it wants.
I love that. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
You're
So
welcome.
rich. Talk to you forever.
Thank you.
So, is there anything else that I did not ask you that you wanted to give to the Single Mom Collective as we're working on seeing potential in our
Mhm.
future? following our passions, believing that we can be financially independent and raise great kids. Anything else that you wanted to give that I didn't ask?
No, I think I would leave them with one thought, like dare to dream, because the world
Yeah.
you grew up in is not the world it is today. And one of the things that like I was taught from like I come from a family of entrepreneurs who are so practical, and they always told me you'll never make money dancing. You'll never make money, right? Like what, like, holistic health, who cares? People like, in here, most medicines are subsidized. Like it's almost free to get health.
Right.
Why would someone pay you, right? Um, so dare to dream because the world is changing. People are changing. There are so many women who are now empowered to make choices that we couldn't make years ago.
Right.
And the more of us that are making it, the more, like we were talking about this before, like we've just created our own little economy at this point. So yes,
Yeah.
it is whatever someone's telling you wasn't possible isn't based on what is actually going on right now, because there's a big movement, there's a lot happening. And if you're wondering if you can be a
Yeah.
part of it, you can. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here listening to this.
Yeah. Absolutely. I had a, business consultant back when I was in radio say, but Amanda, what if you were done dreaming small? What would you do? And I was like, oh, well, I'd have a national radio show. And a year to the date that my ex left, I got that national radio show because I just decided to be done dreaming small.
That's,
Hmm.
yeah, that's it.
So I think that's all. Yeah. Like
It's
we're
giving
here
yourself
for you,
permission.
Single Mom
Yeah,
Collective. And if, yes, yes, because you deserve it. You deserve it and you
exactly.
can do it. Like anything. It's like, what would you tell your own children? And I think
Right?
about my grandmother who became a single mom, a widow of four children in 1956. And her best job, the only job option she had was to be a bank teller or a telephone operator. She chose bank teller
Hmm.
and learned a lot about money, put all four of her children through college, and it just was a hero in my mind. And then, like, just the fact that she made it work, it made me think, well, heck, I can do it. And then my mother, she, couldn't even get her own credit card until, like, this just sounds crazy without a male cosigner. And the fact that, like, they did it. Now, what could you do? You have all the freedoms and all the ability to do everything and to become the hero of your own story and the mom that your children will absolutely brag about. So, girl, go. And we're here to help and propel you forward in the Single Mom Collective. So, how can we get in touch with you? If we're like, okay, I want some help in the manifestation world, like, how can we connect with you, Reenie?
The best place to connect with me is Instagram. I don't know if you can link it
Yeah.
in your notes or
I will
something,
put it
but
all in the show notes. But yeah,
Reenie.Khanna, come and find my community.
okay.
We're all about manifesting the life that you desire. Nothing is out
Love.
of reach. It's called Live in Flow and
Mhm.
Thrive. So that is the
I
best way to
like
find
it.
me.
Like it. Okay, and again, all the links will be in the show notes. And like, thank you for blessing the Single Mom Collective today. And
Thank
I
you
just
for
know it's
having
just the
me.
beginning of lots of cool things.
Yeah, and I just
Thanks.
want to say I think the work you're doing is so
Yes.
fabulous, so important. For anyone, I
Okay.
wish I had a collective like, 7 years ago when I was going through this. But so thank you for doing what you do. I think it's great. Fabulous.
Thanks. Thanks for saying that. And you hit the nail on the head. That's why I created it. I created the group that I wish I had.
Exactly. Right.
Thank you.